What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of the ultimate mortal man's RMZ450 build. My name is Charles, mXrevival, mXrevival.com, also mXrevival on Instagram. Lots of cool build photos, vapor blasting, special projects, Chinese bikes, all kinds of crazy stuff. With that said, welcome back to episode 3 of this RMZ series. If you missed the first 2 videos, you go ahead and check that playlist out right here and come on back when you're done. So far we've uncrated the bike in episode 1, and in episode 2 we pit my 20, this one here, against my modified 18, 20 stock. The 18 had a bunch of cool stuff, engine mounts, pipe, suspension, you name it. But for now, today, enjoy episode 3. We take the brand new 20 RMZ450, we take the stock suspension and pit it against the modified Pro Circuit suspension that is now installed on this bike. And at the end of this video I have a very important question for you guys, so stay tuned till the end. I'm gonna let you vote on something. That's right, episode 4 is going to be left entirely up to you guys. So after episode 2, came home, washed the bike down, went ahead and did a plastic swap. I assure you this is the 20, not the 18 you saw in videos 1 and 2. I went ahead and preserved the brand new stock plastics and just set them aside for now. So this is the 20 with the 18 plastics on it. So the purpose of today's video is to help you guys out, try and shed some light on whether or not you need to send your suspension out and get fixed up or doctored for you, or can you live with the stock stuff. I figured the best way to do that was to take both sets of suspension and pit them against each other on the same ride day. I must admit I'm a little bit shocked by the answer myself after having ridden both sets back to back. I wanted to go ahead and throw in a quick bonus portion of this video where I actually do a quick fork seal and oil change on the forks. I had the Pro Circuit suspension serviced about 3 rides before I needed to do this swap, and lo and behold, for whatever reason, one of the fork seals blew, and so in order to conduct this test I needed to take it apart, go ahead and swap the seals, and it ended up being some good bonus footage. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll that now. You guys are gonna see how to change a fork seal, what you need, what tools are involved, how easy it is. If you guys are pressed on time and you don't want to see how the fork seal job's done, you can use the timestamps or chapters in the description below and skip on to the next section where I'm not at the track. Alright guys, we've got the suspension up here on the bench. We're going to go ahead and do the fork seal job. You don't need a ton of tools or a ton of materials. This is basically it. We have some really high quality SKF fork seals. We have the fork seal and the dust seal. There's one in each pack. These forks, as well as the new CRF and the newest Cowie, all use a 49mm Showa. They're essentially the same forks with minor changes. You need a seal driver. You need a seal bullet. You put this on the end of the chrome shaft when you slide a seal on. That keeps it from getting shredded on the sharp edges of the lower tube. H-tool, I'll show you what that's for soon. Got a cap wrench. KTM is 6-sided. These are 8-sided for Japanese brands. The grease is actually for something else. The towels, obviously, because this is a freaking mess. And then we have a measuring cup there for the fork oil. Each leg will be 350 cc's as designated by Pro Circuit. I ended up really liking that. I like to go ahead and rip off a bunch of towels because as you go, you sort of grab the roll of towels and just destroy them. So it's nice to have about 10 to 15 of these ready to go. You can wipe things down as you go, wipe little dirt smears off the forks, make sure your tools are clean, whatever it may be. We're also going to need a little drain pan, something to drain the oil into. I'm going to go ahead and empty this first just so you can see what I'm using. There is a little automotive style catch pan for the oil. Forgot the brake cleaner. I like having brake cleaner around to clean my hands off, clean tools off as I go, clean dirty things off as I go. It really wicks up the oil well, doesn't damage anything. Let's crack these suckers open and fix these fork seals. Go ahead and just start by wiping everything down. I've already cleaned the bikes, as you saw, just as a last minute measure to get any extra dirt off. As you can see, there's always something still lying around. We want to make sure everything's as clean as possible before we open these suckers. If you have quick bleeders, you want to be very careful not to break them off. They break off easy and it's not super fun getting the broken off threads out of the fork cap. Another thing you're going to want to do is take your clickers and spin them all the way soft. I was taught to do this by a suspension technician. I don't actually know why we do it. If anybody has any input on that, be sure to drop it in the comments below. But when we do this, we want to go counterclockwise, so full soft on both compression and the rebound down here, and then we're going to take a note of it. So I went out 12 on the rebound, so R12, I know to go back in 12 clicks. Same thing with the compression, C5 for compression 5. I know I need to go back in 5 clicks. Everything's at full soft. We've got the air pressure bled via the quick bleeder here. If you have a regular screw, go ahead and bleed it. You can put it back in. Make sure your hands are clean because you're going to be holding the tube. And if your hands are oily and they're just sliding all over the place on the tube, you're not going to get this open. Hopefully it's loose enough for me to open without too much of a fight. It's pretty tough. I already can't open it. Old pansy hands couldn't get it done, so what I like to do when this happens is I'll just take a fork leg and I'll just put it back in the bike with a little bit of room up here at the top so I can get the wrench back over it. I just give it a really light snug, kind of like a second set of hands. I do not have soft jaws for my vise, otherwise I would do it that way. There we go, broke her loose. So all you need is just get it started. Got her opened up, got an O-ring in there. Got a little oil starting already, so now you slide the tube down, you end up with the center cartridge in there. You can see the oil's new, so it's a bummer that the seal went. Go ahead and dump it out. Get a little gurgle going. I like to flip the fork over at this point and try and sort of massage more oil out. And then you're just gonna let this thing drain. Once it's drained, we'll move on from there. All right, I think I've got most of the oil out, so I like to kind of just close this up, screw the top back on, set things aside, go ahead and give everything a wipe. You're gonna be wiping things very frequently. Okay, at this point, we need to go ahead and crack this nut on the bottom of the fork lug. This is going to enable the cartridge to come out of the center of the fork assembly, and then we'll be able to split the tubes so we can get the fork seal out. Right now, everything is held together top and bottom by that center cartridge you saw a second ago when I was pumping oil out of the fork itself. We're in another one of those situations where you're going to be spinning this nut and the fork's going to want to rotate and spin all over the place. And like I said before, if you don't have soft jaws for your vise, then you're not going to be sticking your forks in them. You can go ahead and grab your front axle and use it as a stop. So in our case, I'm going to slide this thing in there. That's the wrong way. We're going to go this way because we're going to be spinning the fork that way. Make sure you're using the right end. Now you have something to use as a stop and crack that open. So the axle comes in super, super handy for that. If you want to speed things up, you can use an impact. We don't want to put any impact on it, but we can use it to spin the part more quickly. And you're going to hear it clicking when it runs out of threads. And that's how you know you've gone all the way out. Okay, so I'm being very careful with that quick bleeder down there. I have some leverage that I need and also a good angle for you guys to see the cartridge popping out here. This is where you take your H tool, slide it under the end of this nut that's on the end of the damping rod. Now I will be able to remove this nut from the end of the damping rod. And once that's done, everything will be able to come apart out the top of the upper tube. You can do the same thing you did with the axle here. Bust it loose. The H tool is holding everything out, otherwise it's stuck inside the tube and you cannot access this lower hex in order to get this nut off. There you go. So that's your rebound adjuster right there. You can see it's D-shaped. It goes into a damping rod, which you'll see in a second. I'm going to be very mindful of that when you put things back together. And I also now have a chance to hit this with some brake clean and get any little metal slag out of there. Turn the fork over, you should get a damping rod that comes out. There she is. Also D-shaped. You can see a little bit of contamination going. That's just from the forks working inside, doing their thing. There is metal in there that is lubricated by the oil, but you do get this sort of dirty buildup over time. You want to just set that aside. You don't want to forget to put it back in either. Now we're going to go back down here, being mindful of the fork bleeder. I can go ahead and get that H tool out by pushing on the lug, pulling the tool out. And if you guys don't have an H tool, you usually get away with the 14mm box wrench on the open end, of course. Kind of like a substitute H tool. H tool is just nice because it's plastic, whereas the wrench is metal and the plastic is non-marring. At this point, you'll be able to open the top cap again. And since we are all released down below and we have that nut out of the fork lug, everything is going to come out of this fork leg. It's going to be accompanied by a fork spring, so don't dump this thing over. It will all come shooting out. Just going to take this stuff out slow. And that is your fork center cartridge. Get our oil pan back here. You're gonna wanna hold your finger inside the tube. You can flip this over. I have my finger in the end of the fork spring. And you can sort of massage a little more oil out of the tube. We're gonna set all this stuff aside. It's really of no interest to us. We are just trying to get to the fork seal right now and the dust seal. Set that aside, clean up this massive oil spill here. This is the kind of job where the stainless table is just heaven sent. Now, as you can see, we get stuck right here. We can't get everything apart. That's because there's some bushings on the end of this lower tube that are holding it into the upper tube. So we need to go ahead and remove the dust seal, then a circlip, and we can bang the tubes apart and get the actual fork seal itself out. All right, as you can see, I'm burning through rags like a madman. We are at the point in the job where we want a small flathead, not a big one, because it will be too thick to bust this dust seal loose from the upper tube. You want to take the end of the screwdriver and gently get it between the metal upper tube and this rubber dust seal. Very carefully. If you slip, you will hit the chrome. It's pretty tough, but you don't want to hit it. So then just work your way around. Once you get this started, kind of go in a circle. And then as you can see, the dust seal just kind of comes out. So that's phase one. We got the dust seal out. You guys can see that sort of hexagonal shaped or multi-sided snap ring in there, circlip. You can see it has some gap. You need to lift that up. You want to do that by the open end, which is right there. Get that same screwdriver, lift that up, and you get that out. Now you can just work your way around and it will pop free, as you can see. And that's done. At this point, we can go ahead and bang these tubes outward, and that will bring it all apart. There you have it. So there is the fork seal, a washer that is always in there below one of the guide bushings, and then another guide bushing at the top. There's a coating on these. You can see it's starting to kind of wear. Looks okay. I mean, for the amount of riding I've done, I'm actually surprised to see the wear on that. It's got a little bit of life left in it. So I don't have bushings ready. Only prepared to do fork seals. We'll be able to get a good look at them here in just a second. Take your fingers, open this little end here, take it off. Then you can see there's a coating inside there. It looks okay. Then the next one comes off. This is your first time doing this. Go ahead and set everything in an order the way it comes off, noting that in this case, the sharp side of this washer was down, facing towards the seal. So we'll go ahead and put it face down. Then you can take off the seal. This is the bad seal. And you can take off the circlip and throw it on the ground like I like to do. Finally, the dust seal. So you're gonna wanna go ahead and clean all this up, wipe it down, get it real clean, get your hands clean, get all the debris off of it. We're gonna go ahead and pick up the poor little circlip off the ground. We're gonna clean it really well. And then as far as the dust seal and the fork seal, they're just going in the trash. All this debris, there's grease in here. I don't know why suspension tuners use grease when they put these on. I never do. I never seem to have a problem. There's obviously a reason why they do. I'm not a suspension technician, so I'm not bagging on it. I just don't know why they do it. It seems to me like it just catches a bunch of extra crap, and that extra crap goes in your forks, and then you blow fork seal, and then you end up in this situation, you know, 3 rides after you get your shit serviced. So not a fan of it. If anybody can explain that, I'd be open to listening, but for now, garbage. Go ahead and give all your beloved suspension parts a nice little wipe down. Be able to get an idea of a little bit of the slag that's going on there, all the metal on metal. These are meant to wear out and be replaced. On the KTM, these are raw steel, so they rust really badly. I think it's ridiculous. On the Japanese, this is a steel circlet, but it has like a zinc coating on it, so I've never actually seen one of those corrode unless it was really old and had been reused about 10,000 times. I'll wipe everything down. So that's pretty clean. A little bit of debris on there, not too bad. So you can go ahead and get into the end of this fork tube. Watch. This is probably going to be dirty as hell. Not terrible. A little bit of shit on there. But there's also a groove in here that circlip lives in. So you want to get your fingernail on the paper towel and just kind of get the crap out of that groove. Do your best to get the crap out of all these little ridges right here. There's several ridges in the tube. Now I'd like to take this and set it aside. Straight up, it will give the additional oil a chance to find its way out. We can give it one more wipe before it's done. Sometimes I'll take a clean rag like so, stuff it in there, grab the cartridge, give her a little wipe through. All right, now we're gonna crack into the fork and dust seals. These are the best freaking seals money can buy. The brand is SKF. They are absolutely amazing. They last a long time. They have very low stiction. Stiction refers to sort of the tension or friction that's happening as the upper and lower tubes go into one another. You have stiction that kind of creates a bad action while you're actually using your bike on the track. So amazing fork seals, amazing dust seals, just amazing seals in general. And actually I went ahead and set up just last night on the website everything you guys need to get this done, from springs to the tools you're seeing right now and the seals and oils. So if this is something you need to do, once you have the tools and you know how to do it, you can help people. You have the tools the rest of your life. It's really straightforward, and you know you can save a ton of money by just doing this yourself. Check that out when you have time. Appreciate you. And for now, we're gonna get back into the job, and that is putting these seals on. So I like to go ahead and start by cracking a fresh bottle of oil, and then I like to take a little bit of the oil and pour it in the cap. I just set this aside here. If you're doing the oil in both the outer tubes, which you guys saw me dump, and the oil that's in this center cartridge, oftentimes you need 2 bottles of oil. Typical is 5 weight. And if you're just doing what I'm doing right now, which is replacing the oil in the outer tube only, then you just can get away with 1 bottle. We're gonna go ahead, and what I like to do is sort of dab my finger here, and I oil up these seals and dust seals. Get your seal bullet. The seal bullet goes on the end here, and the idea is to get the very delicate seal edge here to slide onto the lower tube without being scarred or cut by these really sharp edges on the tube. You can get away without the seal bullet. It's just really nice to have. Get a little dab of oil on there. First things first, you got to think in reverse order. You have your dust seal, spring side down, goes on first. Very important. And as you can see, I didn't have to deal with any of those rough edges. Then you're going to take your circlip. If you have a KTM, there's a sharp side of the circlip. On this, it doesn't matter. Put it on facing either way you'd like. Then we have the fork seal. Now, the fork seal has some ridges on the inside of it that wipe and wick the oil and keep it up inside the upper tube. So the quickest way to identify the proper direction is, as you can see, there's like a cupped side or a hollow backed side that faces up. Back in the day, we were monkeying around in the garage. We put both fork seals in upside down on my buddy Trenton's bike, and we probably shouldn't have been drinking beers that night, but as you can imagine, he had a little bit of oil flow on the trail the next day, so not cool. Don't do it. So here is the big washer. As you may remember, the sharp side was down. When washers are made, they're stamped, I believe, and so there's always like a round side. Pay attention to stuff like that. At this point, you no longer need the seal bullet. You have your clean washer, sharp side down, and as you can see, we're just going in the order that we removed everything from before. Dust seal, circlip, fork seal, washer. Now we can do our bushings. The first bushing can slide on and off easy. This is always the case. So go ahead and put that on. You can go ahead and snap this guy on, and now everything is stuck on the tube. It can't go anywhere. So at this point, we can install the lower tube into the upper tube and then drive the seal into place, and that's what we're going to do now. Go ahead and take your upper tube. We didn't really get any additional oil loss or anything coming out. Everything's nice and clean from our previous wipe down. So from here, we should be able to slide our lower tube into our upper tube. Sometimes this lower bushing likes to jump the track a little bit, so just take your time. It may work out of its grooves. Work it back into the tube gently, and then once everything kind of goes back in freely, you'll know that you got it dialed. See that it kind of came off a little bit? There we go. That happens. Take your time, pay attention. And once that bushing's back in place, you can flip everything upside down. Second bushing, washer, seal. Seal should just kind of fall right into that cavity. And now we're at a point where we can use the seal driver to get everything jammed back in there. So the seal driver is also special, 49 mil for the fork, 2 halves. And then if you want, you can put some clean rags down below because we're going to be doing some pounding here. I know you guys like doing some pounding, so. You can hear how solid that gets when the seal is actually driven all the way in where it belongs. The seal is driven down deep enough when you're able to get this circlip back in, and you're going to want to listen for a snap. Work the circlip in, and then you're going to want to listen for that snap. So grab your little screwdriver, get one side down. Now listen closely. That's the click. Then you're going to want to look all the way around in a circle to make sure without a shadow of a doubt that that circlip is in its groove. And when you're done with that, you're good to go. At this point, you can take your dust seal and sort of work it in by hand. You could just push this in, or you could do this. And now it's in there. It's set flat all the way around. So that, my friends, is how you do a fork seal. That is a thing of beauty. It's like they say, plan your work, work your plan. We're going to go ahead and take this fork spring. We're going to put the fork spring back inside. Going to go ahead and slide that back in. Get this up to the top, spin it closed just a little bit, just enough so that it doesn't come back apart on you while you're trying to work. And then we are going to head back down to H-tool land. So we're going to take our H-tool here. We're going to take the end of our fork, again being mindful of that bleed screw. We're going to go ahead and push this down, get that back out, put our H-tool in, back on the bench. Don't forget the damping rod, remember? And as I said earlier, this is D-shaped. Some of them are round and it doesn't matter, but this is meant to drop onto a D-shaped post inside. So when you're putting this together, it will only go in so far usually until it seats properly. Yeah, watch. As I spin this, there, it fell into place. So this only goes in one way, both sides. So be mindful of the D shape. Be mindful of the D, in other words. We'll just seat it lightly. Take the H tool out. Gently put this back into the fork load. Axle back in. Reverse direction from before. And now that we have everything pretty much back together, we're going to go ahead and open this cap, slide the upper tube down. And what I like to do from here is find a nice stable place, because we're going to now pour oil into the outer tube to restore the oil that we lost from the blown fork seal and the rest of the oil that we dumped out. This has been cleaned out. We're going to get this up to 350. Dump it in against the inner cartridge. Helps everything flow down into the fork tube. Get as much of that oil in there as you can. And you, my friends, are just about done. Go ahead and close up the top cap. Get your wrench. Do it the rest of the way. Your hands are going to be nice and slimy. You're not going to get much out of it. And now you can go ahead and go back to your clicker settings and turn the rebound in 12, back in 5 on the compression, 3, 4, 5. You can also double check these settings against your other tube just in case you're off by a click, but not the end of the world. This fork here, sucker's done, man. Oh yeah. We got a nice new fork seal in there, almost ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other tube. I'm gonna clean these both up. I'm gonna get rid of these ratty old stickers, put some new ones on, and we will be good to go. So next time you guys see me, it'll be at the track with a stock versus mod set of suspension. All right, now that you guys know how to swap a fork seal, let's head out to the track, start laying some laps down.
First lap, stock suspension. Bike's about 1,000 pounds. The bike feels really good. The brakes are amazing. The seat is nice and firm. It's all new. Everything works good. The clutch feels great. It's just really refreshed. Hero dirt, and this is where we're used to riding. Later on that turns into a jump. This new bike, the suspension stock, is like, it is so much better than the 18 was when it was stock. I have not changed the clicker. I have not touched the shock. I have not adjusted the race sag. This thing is still right out of the crate as far as suspension goes. And like I said, the track's pretty much perfect still, so even still, the 18 in this same scenario, when it was brand new, man, like you just couldn't really get past the point you'd start to push it and it would load and unload and lose traction and grab traction, and it was just a mess. So I'm actually having a lot of fun right now. This place. Gotta watch those slick jump faces in the morning though. They'll get you in the ass and then you'll be on your ass. Not that much mud, pretty good. I mean, there's mud on there, but it'll come off easy. It's not really mud, it's like, you know, more like cookie crumbs, if you will. So good. Holy shit, that was a blast. Good, dude, that's your shit right there. I know, I was like, damn. That is so good. Yeah, I don't ever even go out in those early practices, but that was like, dude, this bike is like light years better than the 18 stock. Right? Crazy different. Like, they changed the spring. Who knew, you know? Still haven't touched the clickers. I haven't done anything to it. I know it'll be a handful later, but like, it's so good right now that I'm like, oh, why don't even change it? Just like see what happens, you know? But I already know what's... Yeah, it's like I already know what's gonna happen. Oh, guys, that is so fun. I didn't want to get off the track. I can't believe how much better the stock 20 and then 19 and 21 as well, because they're the same. How much better it feels than the 18 when the 18 was stock. I did not want to get off the track. Like I said while I was out there, I haven't touched a clicker. I haven't raised or lowered the forks. I haven't touched the shock. I haven't touched the sag. That was
some of the funnest shit that I've done in a long time. And the bike's not even that dirty, which is even better. It means it's gonna be a lot easier to swap the suspension later. But anyways, damn, like if you guys have a 19, 20, or 21, and you're not cooking fast yet, you're not just like super fast. I'm at the point where I'm not fast, but I'm also not slow. So like the bike does get out of hand. When I let off the bike's throttle into a turn situation, if it was a sudden chop, it would dive. The front end would bite, and that's when the shock unloads and things get kind of sketchy. Right now the dirt's so sticky, it doesn't really matter. But the stock tires are great, even though they're heavy. The bike was like just a dream. So I almost don't even want to swap the suspension, but that's what we're here to do. Now I know for sure that before even putting the Pro Circuit suspension on, that I'm not getting the traction I need out of it. I think it's too low in the rear, excess sag, and in photos of it, it sort of is off the ground. The front wheel's off the ground a little bit sometimes in pictures, so it's breaking, you know, contact with the dirt. And I think that's why sometimes it's harder to go fast on, because it's not connected to the dirt properly in some cases. But as moto number one, the dirt's amazing. The bike is awesome. Holy crap.
Got a little extra payload right now. There's 2 little holes in that skid plate. Everything goes through there. Pretty loaded down, but man, that dirt is just like cookies, man.
Man, he's getting it on the orange bike.
Yeah!
Quick spoke check, and we are on our way back out. If you guys have a new bike or you haven't checked your spokes lately at all, there's a good chance they're loose, so check them. They just, you know, things break in, chains slack out, you know, stuff starts to kind of move around, and stay on top of it, and you won't have a, you know, flat from a bad spoke or a broken spoke or whatever. Kind of common sense, but you know, if you don't know, now you do, and I promise it'll be helpful. So let's go do another moto. This thing has a ton more bottom end than the 18. The 18 has the lean coupler in it and a different pipe, and as you guys may have heard in video 2, that setup sort of makes power a little less abruptly. Moto 2, track will be a little bit more broken in, a little less cookie crumbly. If you stay smooth on this bike, you can keep it from rocking and getting upset. But I'm not that smooth. God, it's good.
All right, guys, looks like this thing may have failed to record. I was trying to do a cool time lapse for you, but the Pro Circuit suspension is now on the 450, so it hasn't started raining yet, which is great. I had time to swap everything over from stock to PC, and this is the stuff I'm used to, so I'm really enjoying the stock stuff today, so we'll see what happens. I kind of feel like the PC stuff, after riding this in video 2, this bike was really chattery and kind of came off the ground in the front a lot in terms of traction, so maybe I need to do some tweaks, but we'll see just initially how things go between stock, which, like I said, so much better than the 18 and you know, the PC stuff. So here goes nothing.
All right, everybody, we got the Pro Circuit stuff on. Get my first moto out on it today on the 20, and I can tell, man, it's just so stiff just getting on it. Really stiff. I like this stuff though, because even though it's a little rough over the chattery stuff, and as the track gets bad, I can literally case like any jump I want and not get hurt, which is does a lot for my sense of security on the bike, I guess. Yeah, overall, now that I've ridden the stock one a couple times, I just can't believe how good the stock one's working. I keep saying it, but I really mean it. That doesn't mean that it doesn't need help, but I just can't believe how good it is compared to what it was in 18 when the bike was new. So here's the Pro Circuit shit, and see how it goes. It definitely holds the line a little better. I do like it. Not as wallowy. Man, the track's just not going to get messed up today. I think the main thing is that this stuff holds up in the stroke really well. It doesn't bottom out when you case it really bad when you make a mistake. Whereas the other stuff, the stock stuff, is extremely comfortable. So this stuff carves an arc really well. It's really planted. But as soon as you start getting over stutter bumps, it starts losing contact with the ground, and then you gotta look for better lines. Alright guys, holy crap, that was fun. The bike is so much stiffer, but it doesn't bottom out anywhere. The main thing is it starts to get really tiresome to ride when you go through chatter. So if you get into like some braking bumps that are getting into a rut, you kind of get squirreled up before you can really set into the rut, where the stock stuff beds down nice and gets into the rut. So I think like if I was like 25% softer on the Pro Circuit, for example, if I put maybe the Pro Circuit cartridges and shock together with the springs from the stock bike, I think I'd have something like super money. So I'll probably try that down the road, but the Pro Circuit stuff still wins when things get busy and things get chewed up. It's more predictable, and you can depend on it a little bit more. But man, the stock stuff was so good, I'm shocked. I can feel the difference with the stock engine mounts and the Pro Circuit stuff, ultra stiff. The engine mounts take some of that bite away too. We'll get into those mods soon, but overall, you can't go wrong. I still love the bike. It's nimble, it's freaking brand new. It just feels so good. So if you own a Suzuki, be proud of it. It's a killer bike. Okay, boys and girls, this is Moto 2 on the Pro Circuit stuff. I went ahead and slowed down the rebound 2 clicks. What that does is keep the forks from coming out as fast as they were. I feel like they're coming out and hitting obstacles and skipping a little bit. So if I can slow the front end down, slow the rebound down, then it will come out not as quickly and maybe settle this thing down a little bit. I went one softer on the compression also. So the reason I did that is you can see I'm not getting through the whole stroke here, and I'm not hitting any of the big jumps or casing them. Usually when we do that, I'll use this stroke, but for today, I just want to see if I can get the busyness to settle down in these fork and shock and get it a little more compliant.
Where's the button?
Hey man, don't even start with that electric start shit, man. Come at you.
God damn.
Yeah, it's a handful when the Trek gets rough, but like it's super precise because of it, you know.
You hitting ramps?
Yeah, man. You know me, I'll be doing them 360s and all that kind of thing.
You like it like that?
I really did, and I've been like riding it. You know, we got to a point where we rode it well, and it's what gave me the confidence to get over some of those bigger triples when we were doing them. Because like, if I made a mistake, the bike doesn't care.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, now that I've ridden the stock stuff, and it's like it's so compliant and smooth, and it likes to bed down and get in the ruts easier. And like when it hits the chatter before the ruts, it doesn't hop out of place. I've lost a little weight too. I probably lost about 10 pounds since I got this done. So, and then like if I could get this thing 25% softer, then I think it'd be like perfect. Because the stock shit's not predictable. It gets out of hand. You know, the shock is like very busy. It messes the front up even. It unloads and pushes the front down. So this one's really predictable and really progressive. So I think a blend of the two would be maybe just the thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what about that electric starter? What about it? Okay, Moto 2 on the Pro Circuit. Yeah, feels a little less busy, that's good. I think we made some good progress. So awesome. Moto 2 on the Pro Circuit stuff, a few clicker changes. It's way closer where I want it to be. It is not as choppy or rigid or skippy after slowing the rebound down. Huge step in the right direction. So we may not need to do the cartridge and spring swap I mentioned before I went out. Oh man, this bike is so much fun. So let's recap, guys. We have the Pro Circuit forks, sprung and valve for my weight and ability, maybe a little stiffer than my ability, really, by a little bit. I'm kind of on the slow and soft side of the clickers rather than the more aggressive, hard and fast side. We got the Pro Circuit shock, got an extended bladder, and we have the Pro Circuit lowering link. So that really levels this bike out and helps the shock work a lot better. So I absolutely adore this thing. So much fun. Track's perfect. Nobody showed up. Track stayed good all day. That's really good for a back-to-back test on bumps for both sets of suspension. So I'll see you guys back at the shop. Appreciate you watching. Hope you're enjoying everything.
Man, I have got to say that is one of the most fun rides I have had in quite some time on the track. We started the day out with some absolute hero dirt. It was super tacky. The track was perfect. As you can see, I was the only one on the track. There were 0 lines, and the first 4 or so laps I did, it was just my tire tracks. That was a real treat. This stuff was like Oreo cookie crumbs. The only downside to a perfect track is it's hard to get the stock suspension to work unfavorably on such perfect dirt. That's when the stock stuff really starts to misbehave. If you have an RMZ450 and you're able to push that bike and it's still stock, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The 18 was a hot mess when it was stock. As soon as I got used to the bike, you'd go to get into a rut, you'd grab the front brake to bed in, the thing would totally dive down, the shock would unload in the rear, push the front down first, you would start to oversteer, then you'd let up, and then you'd understeer, and by the time that had all happened, you'd totally blown the turn and you're out of the rut. It was just a mess. The stock stuff on the 20, not so. So much more balanced out of the box. I actually got to a point where I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna leave this stuff on. It's super fun. The track's not going to get rough today, but of course, we were there to do a test and I would never shortchange you like that. So what are my final thoughts on this whole suspension swap thing? Well, as the day went on and then the swap ensued, I actually ended up with a little bit more convoluted information than I would have liked. I was really expecting this test to be more conclusive, and I myself like to get to the conclusions of things very quickly. I like to get to a solution and move on, but it's suspension. Settings can be completely subjective depending on who you are. But at the end of the day, the Pro Circuit's still the winner for me. I really enjoy the plushness and the comfort from the out-of-the-box settings of the 20 stuff. And I really enjoy the ultra stiff Pro Circuit stuff too, because if I were to case a jump or have a hard landing or want to jump one of the bigger triples on the track, the bike doesn't bottom out, and if I do get into trouble, it doesn't unload and send me off the track. It's very predictable. So basically what I've been doing is making the trade where the stock 20 stuff might bottom out and get me into a heap of trouble. The 18 stuff saved me, the Pro Circuit stuff. So what does all this rambling mean for you, the bike owner? I think my conclusion is this: if you have any of the RMZs and you're riding the bike and it doesn't make you feel like something sketchy is going to happen, you don't feel like you're waiting for the bike to spit you out, or you can get through situations on the bike where it doesn't feel unpredictable or uncomfortable, you're probably good with what you have. If you've crossed that threshold, or you're too heavy for the bike or too light for the bike, and by that I mean the springs that come in its stock, then you need to make some alterations. Doing this is going to make the bike safer, it's going to make the bike work better, and the less you're thinking about the machine while you're riding it, the better it's going to be for you in terms of speed, confidence, safety, all of the above. Some of you guys that have these bikes have already pushed past that threshold. You already know what I'm talking about, where the bike gets really busy and out of hand with the stock configuration on it, which is exactly what led me to buy into the Pro Circuit suspension in the first place. And overall, the bike is better, though I still need to do a little bit of fine tuning on the Pro Circuit stuff. I think most people are going to get away clean with just setting in the right springs for their weight into the suspension they have, and that will make a world of difference. If the bike is still unpredictable after that, or not favorable on the track, then you're going to want to go ahead and take the next step and have your favorite suspension technician do a reval for you. If you guys are in that position where you want a little bit more out of your suspension, but you don't want to send it off, maybe you just need some springs so you can do this yourself, you can go ahead and check this link out right here. I've set up a full page of information for you regarding the right springs for your weight, the tools you need to get it done, and that's a really great baseline for getting your bike set up properly for you personally, the rider, your weight, all of those types of things. For me personally, I'm just a few clicks away from getting this Pro Circuit stuff just about where I want it, and beyond that, we can still do the RMZ450 shock swap into this bike. That shock literally bolts right into the RMZ450, and it's a completely different shock and forks actually. Those are KYBs, this stuff is Showa. If you guys are at the point where you're gonna go ahead and send your suspension out, I got 3 options for you guys everywhere from west to east coast. The first one is obviously Pro Circuit. This Pro Circuit suspension system is revalved, resprung. We have the lowering link, and we also have an extended shock bladder. The valving in the shock has been built to work in conjunction with the link, and the extended bladder will keep things cooler and resist shock fade as it holds more oil in the rear shock. If you're an East Coast boy, you can go ahead and check out SGB Racing. Jason will take amazing care of you. He has great settings for this fork and shock. If you're a Southern California West Coast boy, you guys can check out Ride JBI. AB also has an incredible spec for this fork and shock. And if you're in Northern California, you can check out Barron Suspension. Chris Hahn, he was the MDK technician back when those guys are around. Now the name is Barron Suspension. He's in San Jose, California, and he too has incredible settings for this fork and shock. And like I said, if you're not quite ready to go ahead and send your stuff out, just be sure to start by checking your sag, taking your bike out for a ride, and if that doesn't cure things for you, then you can go ahead and also find a link in the description below about how to properly set up your bike with the right springs. Your bike will be much more balanced, you'll have the tools you need to do your fork seals, and the tools will last you forever. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys are out there having fun on your bikes. Just really listen to your motorcycle. Pay attention to what it's doing. If it's making you feel uncomfortable, you have work to do. If it feels good the way it is and you have no complaints at all, you're probably just fine. But at the end of the day, if you stand your stuff out, it's definitely going to make a great improvement no matter what. So there really are no wrong answers. Now, video 4 is up to you guys. We're going to get into more modifications on the RMZ450, and I want you to choose the next mod that I'm going to do on episode 4 of the Ultimate Mortal Man's RMZ450 build. The FCP engine mounts, which are completely different engine hangers, aluminum and titanium, or you guys can choose the Pro Circuit exhaust system. We have a full titanium carbon Ti-6 Pro Circuit exhaust with removable spark arrestor, and I want you guys to let me know which one you want me to do next. The FCP engine mounts, which do a pretty great deal on modifying the chassis for better feel and weight savings, and of course the exhaust. Do we get more power out of the exhaust? What do you guys think? I can tell you straight away that we save a couple pounds just from the pipe swap alone. So you let me know which mod you're most interested in doing, which one you're most likely to do next. Guys, thanks so much for watching. You guys are absolutely killing it on the growth of this little channel. I appreciate you very sincerely. Can't wait to see you again. Until next time, stay safe, keep shredding. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.